The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. Now, Captain Park Tae-ho knew the answer. He stood on the bridge of the Arirang, Earth's first deep space diplomatic vessel, and watched alien worlds pass by through the viewing window. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 15 years ago. They were the youngest species, the smallest, and the most ignored. The great empires of the galaxy saw humans as children playing in a universe they did not understand. But Tae-ho did not care what they thought. He had a mission to complete. The Arirang carried 47 crew members. They were scientists, diplomats, and soldiers. All of them had volunteered for this journey. They knew the risks. The Vathan Dominion was not known for being friendly, but Earth needed trade routes, and the Vathans controlled the most important ones. Lieutenant Baek Jisoo walked up beside Tae-ho. She was his second in command, and his oldest friend. They had grown up together in Busan, dreaming of the stars. Now those dreams had become real. "We arrive in 3 hours, Jisoo said. "Are you nervous?" Tae-ho smiled. "I stopped being nervous a long time ago." "Liar," she said, but she was smiling too. The Vathan Dominion was massive. They controlled 200 star systems and had been conquering worlds for 10,000 years. Their leader was called Overseer Malrock, and he was said to be cruel and proud. Many species feared him. Humans had heard the stories, but they had come anyway. That was what humans did. They went forward, even when they were afraid. When the Arirang arrived at the Vathan station, Tae-ho felt something cold in his stomach. The station was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. Vathan warships surrounded it like sharks circling prey. There were hundreds of them. "They want us to feel small," Jisoo whispered. "Then they will be disappointed," Tae-ho replied. The docking was smooth. Tae-ho put on his formal uniform and gathered his diplomatic team. 12 humans would meet with the Vathans. The rest would stay on the ship. Overseer Malrock received them in a great hall, made of black stone. He sat on a throne that looked like it was carved from bone. His body was tall and thin, covered in gray scales. His eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake watching a mouse. "So these are the humans," Malrock said. His voice was deep and filled with amusement. "The young species that thinks it can walk among giants." Tae-ho bowed politely but not deeply. "We come to discuss trade." "Overseer. Earth offers friendship and fair exchange." Malrock laughed. The sound echoed through the hall. "Friendship? What can your little world offer us? You have nothing we want." But that was not true. Earth had resources the Vathans needed. Rare minerals, advanced medical technology, things that even the great empires could not easily produce. Tae-ho knew this. The Vathans knew this too. That was why they had agreed to meet. The negotiations lasted for hours. Malrock's demands were outrageous. He wanted Earth to become a vassal state. He wanted humans to serve the Dominion. He wanted tribute, obedience, and submission. Tae-ho refused every demand. He remained calm and respectful, but he did not bend. His voice was steady. His words were clear. He spoke for all of humanity. And humanity did not kneel. As the hours passed, Malrock's amusement turned to anger. He was not used to being told no. Species that refused the Dominion usually regretted it. He looked at Tae-ho with growing hatred. "You test my patience, human," Malrock said at last. "Perhaps you do not understand your position." "I understand perfectly," Tae-ho replied. "We came here as equals. We will leave as equals. Or we will not make a deal at all." The hall went silent. Every Vathan guard stared at Tae-ho. Jisoo felt her heart beating fast. She had never seen anyone speak to a Vathan overlord this way. Malrock stood up from his throne. He was very tall, almost 3 meters. He walked slowly toward Tae-ho and looked down at him. "You have made a mistake," Malrock whispered. "A very serious mistake. What happened next would change the galaxy forever." Malrock raised his hand. Vathan soldiers rushed into the hall. They grabbed the human diplomats and threw them to the ground. Taeho fought back, but there were too many. He was strong, but he was only one man. Jisoo saw the chaos and made a decision in 1 second. She ran. Not because she was a coward, but because someone had to warn Earth. She sprinted through the corridors, her heart pounding, her legs burning. Behind her, she heard screams, gunshots, the sounds of her friends dying. She reached the Arirang's docking bay. The ship was still there, but Vathan soldiers were already boarding it. Jisoo changed direction. She headed for the emergency pods. There was one left. As she climbed inside, she saw something through the window that would haunt her forever. Vathan soldiers were dragging Taeho across the floor. He was bleeding. His uniform was torn, but he was still fighting, still struggling. Then one soldier hit him with a metal rod. Taeho fell. They put chains on him and dragged him away like an animal. Jisoo launched the pod. Tears ran down her face as she watched the station grow smaller. She had the footage. She had recorded everything through her helmet camera. The galaxy would see what the Vathans had done. The journey back to Earth took 11 days. 11 days of darkness and silence. Jisoo survived on emergency rations and recycled water. She did not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Taeho being beaten. She heard her friends screaming. On the 12th day, she saw Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Home. Her pod crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Rescue teams found her within an hour. She was barely alive. Her body was weak, but her mind was clear. When she opened her eyes in the hospital, she saw Admiral Kang Yuna standing beside her bed. The Admiral was a legend. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 20 years. Her face was like stone, but her eyes were burning. "What happened?" Admiral Kang asked. Jisoo grabbed her hand. Her voice was broken and rough. "They have him. They killed everyone else. Captain Park. He's still alive." Admiral Kang's face did not change. But something shifted behind her eyes. Something ancient and terrible. Something that humans had carried inside them since the beginning of time. Rage. She turned to her officers. "Contact the President. Contact every member of the Council. Tell them what has happened." "What should we tell them?" one officer asked. Admiral Kang looked out the window at the sky. Somewhere out there, past the clouds and the stars, a good man was being held in chains. A son of Earth. One of their own. "Tell them," she said slowly, "that the Vathan Dominion has made the worst mistake in galactic history." The officer nodded and left. Jisoo looked up at the Admiral. What will happen now? Admiral Kang did not answer immediately. She was thinking about the fleet hidden in Earth's asteroid belt. She was thinking about the weapons that humanity had never shown to the galaxy. She was thinking about all the soldiers who would volunteer to fight. Finally, she spoke. "Now," she said, "we bring him home." And so it began. The footage spread across Earth like fire through dry grass. Every screen, every phone, every display showed the same thing. Captain Park Taeho, bleeding on his knees, refusing to bow. Vathan soldiers beating him with metal rods. His crew being shot in the back as they tried to run. And through it all, Taeho did not scream. He did not beg. He looked directly at the camera. And his words were clear despite the blood on his face. "Earth will remember this." For 1 full minute, the entire planet was silent. 8 billion people watched. 8 billion hearts stopped beating. And then, slowly, something began to rise. Not sadness, not fear, something older and darker. In Seoul, people flooded into the streets. In New York, crowds gathered in Times Square. In Lagos, in Mumbai, in Sao Paulo, in every city on every continent, humanity stood together. They watched their captain being dragged away in chains. They watched their people being murdered. And they felt rage. President Choi Dae-sung called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. The council was made up of leaders from every nation. They met in Geneva, in a building that had been designed for peace. But today, there would be no talk of peace. The president stood at the podium. He was 63 years old, a former soldier himself. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were shaking slightly. "You have all seen the footage," he said. 46 of our people are dead. One remains alive, held as a prisoner by the Vathan Dominion. They have committed an act of war against humanity." The room was silent. Every leader listened. "The Vathans believe we are weak," the president continued. "They believe we are young and afraid. They believe they can take our people and face no consequences. They are wrong. They are wrong. They are wrong. They are wrong." He paused and looked around the room. "I am asking this council for authorization to use military force, not limited force, not defensive force. I am asking for total war." The debate lasted only 30 minutes. In the entire history of the United Earth Council, no vote had ever been unanimous. There were always disagreements, always arguments, always compromise, but not today. Every single leader raised their hand. Every single nation agreed. Humanity would go to war. Admiral Kang Yuna was called to the podium. She walked with the confidence of someone who had been waiting for this moment her entire life. The galaxy called her the Iron Lotus, a beautiful flower with a core of steel. "How long until we can launch?" the president asked. "We have been preparing for this possibility for 15 years. Admiral Kang replied. "Our fleet is ready. Our soldiers are ready. We can move within 72 hours. There was a murmur of surprise in the room. The galaxy believed that Earth had only a few hundred ships. They believed humanity's military was small and outdated. They were wrong. Admiral Kang activated a display screen. It showed a map of Earth's solar system. Hidden in the asteroid belt, buried under the ice of Europa, concealed in the dark side of the moon, were military bases the galaxy knew nothing about. 2,000 warships, Admiral Kang said. 4 million trained soldiers, weapons systems that no species has ever seen. We built them in secret. We hoped we would never need them." She turned to face the council. "But we always knew this day might come. We always knew that someone might threaten our people. And we prepared for it." The president nodded slowly. "What is your plan, Admiral?" "Operation Burning Sky," she replied. "We will cross Vathan's space like a fire through the night. We will destroy their military bases, their supply lines, their fleet. We will reach their homeworld. And we will bring Captain Park home." "What about casualties?" someone asked. Admiral Kang's face was hard. "There will be casualties, many of them. But I have already received 5 million volunteer applications. Humanity is ready to fight, ready to die, ready to do whatever it takes." The council gave her full authority. She was now the most powerful military commander in human history. The fate of Earth rested in her hands. As Admiral Kang left the building, reporters surrounded her. Cameras flashed. Questions flew through the air. "Admiral, what message do you have for the Vathan Dominion?" She stopped walking. She looked directly into the nearest camera. Her eyes were cold and certain. "Return our captain. Return him now. This is your only chance. If you do not, there will be no negotiation. No mercy. No surrender. We will come for him, and we will destroy everything in our path." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species saw it. Every empire heard it. The Vathans laughed. Overseer Malrock recorded his own response. He sat on his throne of bone, surrounded by his guards. The human captain knelt beside him in chains, barely conscious. "Foolish humans," Malrock said. "You threaten the Dominion? You threaten me? We have conquered 1,000 species. We have ruled this sector for 10,000 years. You are nothing but insects pretending to be warriors." He kicked Taeho, who fell to the floor but made no sound. "Come, little humans, bring your tiny fleet. We will mount your admiral's skull next to your captain's. The galaxy will learn what happens to those who challenge the Vathan Dominion." The broadcast ended. Admiral Kang watched it on the bridge of her flagship, the Docto. The ship was massive, the largest ever built by human hands. It carried weapons that could destroy cities, shields that could withstand nuclear blasts, and engines that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. Around her, officers worked silently at their stations. The fleet was gathering. 2,000 ships were moving into formation. Millions of soldiers were boarding transport vessels. The greatest military force humanity had ever assembled was preparing for war. Lieutenant Baek Jisoo walked onto the bridge. She had refused to stay in the hospital. She had demanded to join the mission. Admiral Kang had agreed. "The fleet is ready, Admiral," Jisoo reported. "All ships report combat status." Admiral Kang nodded. She looked out at the stars through the main viewing window. Somewhere out there, beyond those points of light, Taeho was waiting. Hurt. Alone. But alive. "He's still fighting," Jisoo said quietly. "I saw it in his eyes. He knows we're coming." "He's a soldier," Admiral Kang replied. "He will hold on. He knows what we are." Jisoo looked at her. "What are we, Admiral?" Admiral Kang turned to face her entire crew. Every officer on the bridge stopped working and listened. She spoke loud enough for her words to carry across every ship in the fleet. Broadcast on every channel. "We are human," she said. "We are the species that walked out of Africa and conquered a planet. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed us. We climbed mountains because they were there. We flew to the moon because we dreamed of it. We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we do not leave our people behind." Her voice grew harder. "The Vathans think they know what war is. They have conquered weak species. Species that surrendered when they saw superior numbers. They have never faced an enemy that would rather die than give up. They have never faced humans." She raised her hand. "Today, we teach them. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you take one of us. Today, we begin the operation that will burn across their empire like the wrath of God." Every officer saluted. Admiral Kang looked back at the stars. Her voice was soft now, but everyone still heard it. "You took one of us," she whispered. "We're going to take everything from you." The engines of 2,000 ships roared to life. The fleet moved forward, leaving Earth behind. They carried with them the anger of an entire species. The fury of 8 billion souls united by a single purpose. They were going to bring their captain home, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them. The first Vathan world to fall was called Thyra 4. It was a border planet, a military stronghold that guarded the entrance to Dominion space. 300 warships defended it. The Vathans believed it was impossible to conquer. They were wrong. Admiral Kang Yuna brought 500 ships to Thyra 4. The battle began at dawn, as the planet's sun rose over the horizon. Vathan commanders watched their sensors with confidence. They had faced many enemies before. They had always won, but they had never faced humans. The human fleet did not fight like other species. They did not form neat lines or follow predictable patterns. They swarmed like angry insects, attacking from every direction at once. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their pilots more aggressive than anything the Vathans had seen. Worse still, the humans did not seem to fear death. Vathan ships began to explode, one by one, then dozens at a time. Human pilots flew directly into enemy formations, breaking their defenses apart. When a human ship was damaged, the crew did not retreat. They kept fighting until the ship was destroyed. 6 hours after the battle began, it was over. 300 Vathan warships were burning wreckage. The orbital stations were ruins. The military bases on the surface were smoking craters. Human losses, 12 ships, 437 soldiers. Admiral Kang recorded the names of every person who died. She would remember them. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Not until Taeho was free. The news of Thyra 4 spread across the galaxy. Other species watched in shock. The Vathan Dominion, one of the oldest and most feared empires, had lost a major battle to the youngest species in known space. Some species celebrated quietly. The Vathans had oppressed them for centuries. They hoped the humans would weaken the Dominion enough for them to escape. Other species were afraid. If humans could do this to the Vathans, what could they do to everyone else? But Admiral Kang was not finished. The human fleet moved deeper into Vathan territory. They struck military bases without warning. They destroyed supply convoys. They attacked shipyards where new Vathan vessels were being built, and everywhere they went, they left a message. Return Park Tae-ho, this is your only chance. Overseer Malrock received report after report of defeats. His advisors begged him to negotiate. His generals asked for more ships, more soldiers, more time. He refused everything. These are humans, he said angrily. Primitive, emotional creatures. They cannot maintain this attack forever. They will run out of ships. They will run out of soldiers. We simply need to wait. But the humans did not run out. On the 15th day of the war, the human fleet reached the Vathan world of Kros. It was not a military target. It was a colony world, home to 10 million Vathan civilians. Admiral Kang stopped her fleet in orbit. She broadcast a message to the planet. Evacuate your military bases, she said. Move all soldiers away from civilian areas. You have 12 hours. When the time is up, we will destroy every military target on your world. Anyone who remains near those targets will die. The Vathans were confused. Other species did not give warnings. Other species did not care about civilian lives. This was a trick, they thought. It must be a trap. But it was not a trap. Exactly 12 hours later, human ships began their attack. They destroyed military bases, weapons, factories, and communication towers. They hit every military target with perfect accuracy. The civilian areas were untouched. When the attack was over, 6 million Vathans were still alive. They stood in the ruins of their world and watched human ships fly away. They did not understand. Why had the humans spared them? The answer spread through the galaxy like a whisper. Humans are not monsters, the survivors said. They could have killed us all. They chose not to. They only want their captain back. This confused the Vathans more than any military defeat. They had been told that humans were savage and bloodthirsty. They had been told that humans were too emotional to be rational. But this was not the behavior of savages. This was the behavior of a species that knew exactly what it was doing. Some Vathan worlds began to surrender without fighting. Their governors decided that it was better to give up than to be destroyed. Admiral Kang accepted their surrender and moved on. Other species watched and learned. The Makari Empire, allies of the Vathans, had promised to send reinforcements. When they saw what the humans did at Kros, they changed their minds. We cannot fight a species like this, the Makari Emperor said. They are strong enough to destroy, but wise enough to show mercy. If we stand against them, they will remember it forever. The Makari withdrew their support. So did the Thorvax Collective, and the Syndicate of Rel, and every other ally the Vathans had counted on. Overseer Malrock was alone. In his throne room, he raged at his generals. He executed advisors who suggested surrender. He screamed that the Dominion could not be defeated by such a young species, but deep inside, he felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. Meanwhile, in the darkness of a Vathan prison cell, Captain Park Tae-ho sat with his back against the cold wall. His body was broken. His ribs were cracked. His face was swollen with bruises. The guards beat him every day, trying to make him beg, trying to make him cry. He never did. He listened to the sounds outside his cell. He heard distant explosions. He heard Vathan soldiers running through corridors, shouting in panic. He heard alarms and screams, and the thunder of battle, and he smiled. One guard saw the smile and hit him across the face. "What are you smiling at, human?" the guard demanded. "You will die here. Your species will be destroyed." Tae-ho looked up at the guard. His eyes were calm, almost peaceful. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "You really don't understand what you've done." "We have done nothing but show your people their place," the guard replied. Tae-ho shook his head slowly. "You took me. One person. One life. And now my people are crossing the galaxy to get me back. They are burning your empire to the ground. They will not stop. They will never stop. The guard hesitated. Every world they take, they are one step closer, Tejo continued. Every ship they destroy, they are one step closer. They will come here. They will find me. And when they do, nothing you have done to me will matter. Because I will go home. And you will have to live with what you started. The guard hit him again, but there was fear in his eyes now. That night, Tejo heard new explosions, closer than before. The lights in his cell flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. They were coming. He closed his eyes and thought of Earth. He thought of blue skies and green mountains. He thought of his family, his friends, his home. Just hold on, he whispered to himself. They're coming. Just hold on. Above him, in the sky of the Vathan homeworld, Admiral Kang's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. 1,400 warships, carrying the fury of all humanity. The final battle was about to begin. Vatha Prime was a massive world, 3 times the size of Earth. Its cities stretched across continents. Its orbital stations blocked out the stars. 800 warships defended it, the largest fleet the Dominion had ever gathered in one place. Admiral Kang Yuna looked at it through her viewing window. This was the heart of the enemy. This was where Tejo was being held. This was where the war would end. Admiral, an officer reported, the enemy fleet is moving to engage. Let them come, she replied. All ships, prepare for combat. This is what we trained for. This is why we are here. The Battle of Vatha Prime began at noon, local time. 1,400 human ships met 800 Vathan warships in the largest naval battle in galactic history. The sky above the planet filled with fire. Human ships attacked in waves, breaking through Vathan defenses with speed and aggression. Vathan commanders tried to coordinate their forces, but the humans were everywhere at once. They struck from above, from below, from every angle. Admiral Kang commanded from the bridge of the Docto. She watched the battle unfold on dozens of screens, giving orders with cold precision. She had studied Vathan tactics for years. She knew their weaknesses. She knew exactly how to break them. Focus fire on their command ships, she ordered. Take out their leaders. Without coordination, they will fall apart. It worked. One by one, Vathan command vessels exploded. Their fleet began to scatter. Individual captains tried to fight on their own, but they could not match human teamwork. Human ships moved together like a single organism, supporting each other, protecting each other. By the end of the first day, 300 Vathan ships were destroyed. Human losses were heavy too, nearly 200 vessels. But the human fleet kept fighting. Fresh ships replaced the damaged ones. Wounded crews were evacuated, and healthy crews took their place. The Vathans had no such reserves. On the second day, Admiral Kang ordered the planetary assault to begin. Transport ships carrying 50,000 soldiers descended toward the surface. Their target was the capital city, where Overseer Malrock's palace stood, where Tejo was being held. Lieutenant Baek Jisoo was on the first transport. She had refused to stay on the flagship. She had promised Tejo she would come for him. She intended to keep that promise. The landing was violent. Vathan anti-aircraft weapons filled the sky with fire. 3 transports were hit and crashed into the ground. But the others made it through. Human soldiers poured out onto Vathan soil. The fighting in the streets was brutal. Vathan soldiers defended every building, every corner, every meter of ground. But the humans pushed forward. They would not be stopped. Not when they were this close. Jisoo led her team through the burning city. They fought their way past Vathan defenders, taking casualties but never retreating. Every soldier knew why they were here. Every soldier was ready to die. By the third day, human forces had surrounded the palace. Malrock's personal guards held the walls, but they were running out of ammunition, running out of hope. Inside the palace, Malrock made his final move. He dragged Tejo to a balcony overlooking the city. Human soldiers were visible in the streets below, advancing toward the gates. Cameras broadcast the scene across the galaxy. "Humans," Malrock shouted. "Stop your attack. Stop, or I will kill your captain." He held a blade to Teho's throat. The metal touched skin, drawing a thin line of blood. The human advance paused. Soldiers looked up at the balcony. Jisoo froze, her heart pounding. Then a new voice came over every communication channel. It was President Choi Dae-sung, broadcasting from Earth. "Overseer Malrock," the president said calmly. "I speak for all of humanity. Listen carefully to my words." Malrock laughed. "Your words mean nothing. I hold your man's life in my hands." "Then kill him," the president replied. The galaxy went silent. "Kill him," the president continued, "and there will be no Vathan left alive in this galaxy. Not one. We will hunt your people across every star, every moon, every shadow. Your species will become a memory. This is not a threat. This is a promise." Malrock's hand trembled. He had expected begging. He had expected negotiation. He had not expected this. "You would sacrifice millions of your own soldiers for one man?" Malrock demanded. "We would sacrifice everything," the president answered. "Because that is what it means to be human. One life is sacred. One life is worth any price. You should have understood that before you took him." Malrock looked at Teho. The human captain met his eyes. There was no fear in those eyes. Only certainty. "They're not bluffing," Teho said quietly. "They really will destroy everything. Every world. Every ship. Every Vathan who ever lived. My people do not make empty threats." For a long moment, Malrock stood frozen. The blade shook in his hand. His guards watched him, waiting for an order. Then he lowered the blade. He had conquered 100 species. He had ruled for 2,000 years. He had never surrendered to anyone, but he had never faced an enemy like humanity. "Take him," Malrock said bitterly. He pushed Teho forward. "Take your captain. Leave my world." Human soldiers burst through the palace gates. Jisoo led them up the stairs, through corridors filled with surrendering guards, to the balcony where Teho stood. She found him standing on his own feet. Despite his injuries, he looked broken and bruised, thin from weeks of captivity. But he was alive. He was alive. "Captain," she said, her voice breaking. He looked at her and managed a small smile. "Took you long enough." She ran to him. She put his arm around her shoulders and supported his weight. Around them, soldiers secured the area. Malrock was taken into custody, chains placed on his wrists, the same kind of chains he had put on Teho. "Can you walk?" Jisoo asked. "I can now," Teho replied. "Get me out of here. Take me home." They walked out of the palace together. Human soldiers lined the path, saluting as their captain passed. Many of them were crying. They had fought across the galaxy for this moment. They had watched friends die. They had wondered if it was worth it. Now they knew. A transport waited outside the gates. Medical officers rushed to help Teho inside. He was injured badly, worse than he had let anyone see. But he was alive. Against all odds, against an entire empire, he had survived. Admiral Kang's voice came over the communication channel. "Captain Park, this is Admiral Kang. Do you copy?" Teho smiled weakly. "I copy, Admiral. Thank you for coming. We would have burned the entire galaxy for you, Captain. Never doubt that." "I never did," he replied. "Not for one moment." Above Vatha Prime, the human fleet held position. The battle was over. The war was won. Somewhere far away, on a blue planet called Earth, 8 billion people watched their captain being carried to safety. And they cheered. They cheered in every city, on every continent, in every language. They cheered because one of their own had been taken, and they had brought him back. They cheered because they had proven something to the galaxy. Humanity would never leave anyone behind. The transport lifted off from the surface. Jisoo sat beside Teho, holding his hand as medical officers worked on his wounds. He was fading in and out of consciousness, but he kept smiling. "We did it," Jisoo whispered. We actually did it. Taeho squeezed her hand weakly. No, he said. They did it. All of them. Every human who fought, who volunteered, who believed. This wasn't about me. This was about us. All of us. He closed his eyes, finally letting himself rest. He was going home. After everything, after all the pain and darkness and fear, he was finally going home. Outside the window, stars stretched across the infinite black. Somewhere among them, a new era was beginning. The galaxy would never forget what humanity had done, and neither would humanity itself. Captain Park Taeho returned to Earth on a clear spring morning. His transport landed in Seoul, the city where he had been born, where he had grown up dreaming of the stars. Millions of people lined the streets to welcome him home. He walked down the ramp slowly, still healing from his injuries. Jisoo walked beside him, refusing to leave his side. Behind them came the soldiers who had fought to rescue him. The survivors of a war that had changed everything. The crowd was silent at first. They watched their captain take each step, saw the scars on his face, the weight he carried in his eyes. He had suffered more than anyone knew. He had held on when most people would have broken. Then someone started clapping. One person, somewhere in the crowd. Then another. Then thousands. The sound grew and grew until it was like thunder, like the roar of the ocean, like the heartbeat of an entire species. Taeho stopped walking. He looked at the crowd, at the faces of his people. Children sat on their parents' shoulders. Old women wiped tears from their eyes. Young soldiers saluted with pride. He had thought about what he would say when this moment came. He had prepared speeches in his head during those dark nights in the Vathan prison. But now, standing here, all those words seemed wrong, so he simply bowed. A deep bow, the kind reserved for the greatest respect. He bowed to his people, to thank them for coming, for fighting, for never giving up. The crowd erupted. The cheering lasted for 15 minutes. 1 week later, Overseer Malrock was brought before the United Earth Council. He stood in chains, the same kind of chains he had once used on Taeho. His scales were dull, his eyes empty. He was no longer the proud ruler of 200 worlds. He was a prisoner, defeated and broken. President Choi Dae-sung read the charges. War crimes, murder, unlawful imprisonment, the execution of 46 human citizens. Each name was read aloud. Each life remembered. Malrock said nothing in his defense. What could he say? He had thought humans were weak. He had been wrong. That mistake had cost him everything. The trial lasted 3 days. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty. Malrock was executed publicly, broadcast across the galaxy. It was not done with cruelty or celebration. It was done with cold efficiency. A message to anyone who might think of harming humans in the future. This is what happens. This is the price. The Vathan Dominion was dismantled. Its 200 worlds were placed under human administration. But the humans did not enslave the Vathan people. They did not take revenge on innocent civilians. Instead, they helped. Human doctors treated Vathan sick. Human engineers rebuilt Vathan cities. Human teachers opened schools where Vathan children could learn. The Vathans did not understand. They had expected punishment. They had expected the cruelty they themselves would have shown to a defeated enemy. Instead, they received mercy. Why? A Vathan elder asked a human soldier one day. We killed your people. We held your captain in chains. Why do you help us? The soldier thought for a moment before answering. Because you are not Malrock, she said. Your leaders made a terrible choice. But that does not make every Vathan evil. We fought a war against those who hurt our people. That war is over. Now we build peace. The elder stared at her for a long time. Your species is strange, he said at last. Capable of such fury and such kindness. Yes, the soldier agreed. We are. That is what makes us human. The galactic community watched all of this with a mix of fear and fascination. The humans had proven they could destroy empires. Now they were proving they could rebuild them. New laws were passed by the Galactic Council. No species was to harm, detain, or threaten a human citizen. The reason was never written down, but everyone understood it. Humanity had shown what they would do for one of their own. No one wanted to find out what they would do for many. 6 months after his return, Captain Park Tae-ho gave his first public interview. He sat in a quiet room, facing a journalist. His injuries had healed, but the scars remained, a reminder of what he had survived. "Captain," the journalist asked, "how does it feel to be the man who caused a galactic war?" Tae-ho was quiet for a moment. "I did not cause the war," he said finally. "I was simply the reason for it. There is a difference." "What do you mean?" "The war was not really about me," Tae-ho explained. "It was about what I represented. One human. One life. The Vathans thought that was meaningless. My people proved that it was everything." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I am grateful to be alive. I am grateful for every person who fought to bring me home. But I am also sad. Many people died because of what happened. Good people. Brave people. They gave their lives for me. Do you think it was worth it?" the journalist asked. Tae-ho looked directly at the camera. "That is not for me to decide. But I will tell you this. Every human knows that if they are ever in trouble, if they are ever alone and afraid, their people will come for them. No matter how far, no matter the cost. That knowledge is worth more than anything." Admiral Kang Yuna retired from military service 1 year after the war ended. She had led humanity's greatest military campaign. She had brought their captain home. Now, she wanted peace. In her final address, she stood before the United Earth Council one last time. Her uniform was covered with medals, but she looked tired. War had taken something from her. Something that could never be returned. "We did not want this war," she said. "We wanted trade, cooperation, friendship with the galaxy. But when they took one of us, we had no choice. We could not leave him behind. That would have meant abandoning everything we believe in." She looked around the room at the faces of leaders from every nation. "Let the galaxy remember what we did. Let them remember that we crossed the stars, burned an empire, and brought our man home. Not because he was important, not because he was special, but because he was ours." Her voice grew softer. "And remember this too. We showed mercy when we could have shown only destruction. We helped our enemies when we could have crushed them. We are not monsters. We are humans. We are capable of great violence when we must protect our own. But we prefer peace. We prefer kindness. We prefer to build rather than destroy." She stepped back from the podium. "My work is done. The future belongs to those who come after. Make it a future worth fighting for." She walked out of the building and never returned to public life. Years passed. The story of the war became legend. Children across the galaxy learned about the humans who burned across the stars for one man. Some thought it was inspiring. Others thought it was terrifying. Perhaps it was both. One evening, on a distant world far from Earth, a young alien child asked their parent a question. "Why do we treat humans with such respect?" The child asked. "They seem small. They seem weak. Why does everyone fear them?" The parent looked up at the stars. They thought about the stories they had heard, the news broadcasts they had watched, the history they had lived through. "Because once," the parent said slowly, "a long time ago, an empire took one human. Just one. A single life. They thought no one would care. They thought they could do whatever they wanted." The parent paused, remembering. But humans came. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. They crossed the galaxy and tore that empire apart. They burned world after world until they found their man. And then they took him home. The child's eyes were wide. "For one person?" "Please, for one person," the parent confirmed. That is what humans are. They will always come for their people. Always. No matter how far, no matter how long, no matter what it costs. The child thought about this for a long moment. So we should never hurt them, the child said. No. The parent agreed. Never. Because the humans taught the galaxy something that day. One human life is worth more to them than all the stars in the sky, and they will burn every single one of those stars to protect it. Far away, on a blue planet called Earth, Captain Park Tae-ho sat on a quiet beach and watched the sunset. The water was warm. The air smelled like salt and flowers. He was home. He thought about the people who had fought for him, the soldiers who had died, the families who had lost loved ones. He carried their memory with him every day, but he also thought about what their sacrifice meant. Humanity had proven something to the galaxy. They had shown that every single life mattered, that no one would ever be left behind. The sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tae-ho smiled. It was good to be home, and somewhere out there, among the infinite stars, the galaxy remembered. The galaxy would always remember. They had held him hostage, and Earth scorched the galaxy for him. That was the human way. That would always be the human way.